This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, Kristen McQuarrie from the Chicago Tribune Ed Board. And Kristen, we've had our old friend, we used to talk to him all the time about mainly radical Islamic terror, Sebastian Gorka, before he became a big shot and deputy assistant to President Trump. And he has been ubiquitous this week on the cable news channels, taking the rhetorical bat to the host du jour on CNN and elsewhere. Let me just give you a little bit of flavor. Sebastian Gorka with Jake Tapper on President Trump's first 24 weeks.
This is an administration that in just 24 weeks has managed to support the Iraqi liberation of Mosul. That's determination. We've used cruise missiles against Assad. We sent a very clear message. The vice president, the day after the cruise missile strike, asked me personally, do you think the world got the message that we sent to Syria? And I said to the vice president, yes, Mr. Vice President, the whole world got it. So Assad knows the determination of President Donald J. Trump, and he knows this is not a man to test.
But for the most part, of course, CNN anchors and other cable news readers want to focus on the Russian collusion and the Trump Jr. meeting and the emails. And so Gorka had some rather colorful exchanges with Gloria Vanderbilt's kid on CNN.
It's just fake news.
Okay. I'm just going to ignore the insults because I don't think it really gets us anywhere. Again.
It's not about you. It's about actually having journalism back on TV. Okay. Where are the Walter Cronkites of yesteryear? This is just about ratings and money, and it's actually quite sad. I'm answering you. Every time.
No, you're responding. You're actually not answering because you're not actually being upfront.
Let's let the viewers judge, who decided that you are now at 13th place in national ratings, behind Nick at Night, which is at 11.
You used that line on Monday, and you know it was sort of mildly amusing on Monday.
Tucker Carlson gets 4 million viewers. You barely scratched 800,000.
But I think it's funny that you have enough time in the White House, which is apparently you're so busy, you're able to sit around and read Nielsen numbers.
No, I get a really good prep from my team because the White House press team is superb. Okay. I don't deal with this stuff because I do have a day job.
Yeah, and so we have him on the show mainly to find out where our ratings are on our show and to see if we're doing better than whatever Nick at Night's radio offering is. Pleased to be joined by the aforesaid Deputy Assistant to President Trump, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Sebastian Gorka, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Anytime. How's it going?
It's going very good. We're happy to have you back. And why don't we start just with your, since you have really been out front this week on geopolitical matters as well as the Russian story and the Trump Jr. story, why don't we just start there and how you think the Trump Jr. meeting and the obsession with said meeting and all of the component parts of it is playing out this week in the D.C. press corps, particularly as it pertains to the president's policy agenda on things like Obamacare repeal and replace, and now even this DACA issue that was raised yesterday by Secretary Kelly.
Yeah, I think you've really hit the main problem here. Look at places like CNN or MSNBC. If you just look at them in totality, they are now talking more about Russia than they are about America. These are publicly traded American news corporations that talk more about Russia than Pravda did during the Cold War. It's strange. It's bizarre. It's got to a level of obsessiveness. But I mean, the good news is Americans get it. They don't care, and that's why nobody's watching their programming. That's why, kids shows get higher ratings than Anderson Cooper, and why we're more factually based reportage such as Tucker Carlson is trouncing people like Anderson Cooper. So, we have to deal with these people. We have to push back. But really, they're an irrelevance because Americans know what the president's doing. They look at the jobs figures. They look at the stock market. They look at what we've done in Iraq, and they see the results. Less than 6 months in, and the president is making good on his promises. And that's all that matters to us here in the White House.
So I do want to get to that, but Personally, I do watch Yogi Bear on Nick at Night over CNN. I'll take it any day of the week. And I
Yogi Bear's great.
It's wonderful. It's much better than watching CNN at 8 p.m. A little plug for Nick at Night. But just as you were tussling with these reporters this week, I mean, the back and forth with Allison Battles was probably my favorite, followed by Anderson Cooper, followed by Jake Tapper. Can you tell us just what was the approach of the White House in doing this, and what do you make of these reporters? You're challenging them. You're challenging their focus on Russia and their networks, but they're still inviting you on the program to do so. What do you make of all that?
Look, that's up to them. It's their call. If they requested me, Anderson Cooper requested I come on the show. If they want to give the president or one of his employees an opportunity to push back, I love it. I mean, this is maybe hard to believe for these people that are stuck in their own little political bubble. But I enjoy this. This is to spar with people who really have no self-awareness. I mean, Anderson Cooper is such a unprofessional so-called journalist that after the clip ends or the interview with me ends, he has a panel to discuss the interview about me and then proceeds to insult me. So, it's great. It just shows them for who they are. So, the emperor is naked, and I will help the general public realize just how naked they are.
Now, it is, by the way, National Naked Day today.
It is.
So today's the opportune day.
Really?
July 14th, yeah.
You don't observe it?
Not here in the White House.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's probably
a good call.
Good thought. But on this topic, of course, it's not just the handmaidens; it's also the Democrats themselves. Nancy Pelosi yesterday called for two things: one, an outside independent commission to run yet another concurrent investigation on Trump and Russia, as well as all of the communications from Trump family members, not limited to the campaign or the government, but just all communications. I assume that includes Barron.
Okay, let's just cut to the quick. We have been listening to this for 9 months. Can you just try and add together the column inches in the printed press and the hours on network news? And we have not had one piece of evidence of illegality provided by anybody, not Democrats, not reporters, for 9 months. On the other side, we have the DNC meet with operatives, government agents from Ukraine to coordinate attack messages against our campaign. We had the Democrat candidate, Hillary Clinton, decide to sell 20% of our uranium stocks to Russia, to a company who was providing her husband with speaking fees in excess of $400,000. We had a candidate who put more than 100 TSSCI, highest level classification emails on a private homebrew server. If I had done that as a lowly DOD employee when I was back in the Defense Department, I'd probably be in jail today. That's news. That's stories. But, it's just indicative of why we won, because the American people see through it, and they voted for a man who keep his promises and execute his agenda, and that is what we're doing.
So on that point, on that agenda, how catastrophic will it be if the Senate cannot do something with Obamacare, given 7 years of promising to overturn it, replace, repeal, what have you? So I'd like your, how catastrophic will that be? And secondly, why has the White House been, why hasn't Trump been more visible in, like he was on the House side, in making phone calls and trying to help gather up votes for that on the Senate side?
Yeah, so we don't like to talk about the inside mechanics. We don't have to be doing things from the bully pulpit all the time. If you read President Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, you'll see that in the private sector, the first chapter of the book is about an average day in his life. And that was an individual who, before he came to government, was making between 40 and 50 phone calls a day as part of his work schedule. So we don't have to trumpet them from the rooftops, but very quietly we're getting things done. With regards to Obamacare, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not going to predict what happens in the Senate. But I know that the American people are hurting. We're not going to lose health care if you can't afford to use it at the moment, and Americans can't afford to use it. I personally, before I came into government, I saw my premiums skyrocket. I saw my deductibles skyrocket. That's the real story. So it really is, the ball is in the court of our national representatives. God willing, they will make the right decision, because whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, the American people are hurting because of Obamacare.
Another matter that I mentioned at the outset that potentially stands to be a real powder keg on the Hill is DACA. And Homeland Security Secretary Kelly briefing the Congressional Hispanic Caucus yesterday that per this court case that's pending, DACA may be adiosed either by the courts and or with the essentially abstention of the Department of Justice. And that means that some 800,000 to 1 million childhood arrivals could be subject to deportation. What is the approach here and the philosophy of the Trump administration on this matter?
Very simple, very simple. America is a nation of law and order and rule of law. We cannot turn a blind eye to people who break the law. I'm an immigrant. I'm a proud American now, a naturalized citizen. And if we don't have accountability, if we don't have transparency in immigration in all aspects of it, whether it's refugees, asylum seekers, family members, then what is America? What do the words the United States of America mean? So, you just have to allow our people, whether it's Secretary Kelly, whether it's AG Sessions, and all the people at DHS, DOJ, implement the laws that are on the books, because then Americans will be safer. It's not about heart, it's not about emotion, it's about national security, and it's about doing the right thing. At the end of the day, we have to uphold rule of law.
But now President Trump said it is about heart. He has used that word specifically in addressing the DACA program. And the question, I suppose, is even if there is a phasing out of DACA, is there the inclination to move to deport those that are already here, or is it going to be operationally more prospective in nature?
Well, let's look at that balance between heart and between what has to be done in the interest of the nation. And I think it's clearest when it comes to the question of refugees. We see this crisis in Europe right now. We've had the travel moratorium successfully upheld by the Supreme Court in a 9-0 decision without dissension. We are America. Listen to the Warsaw speech by the president. We are a Judeo-Christian nation. As such, we should help those in need. We should be charitable. But our inclination, our emotional inclination, our faith-based inclination is not a recipe for suicide. If you go home today after the show, and as the sun goes down, you open every door and every window to your house and put a big sign in the yard, say, everybody welcome, come on in, help yourself. Within 24 hours, you will not have a home. So that's the balance we're trying to reach. The common sense and security and the economic prosperity of Americans must come first. Then we will be charitable as much as we can be.
All right. He is Deputy Assistant to President Donald Trump. He is Dr. Sebastian Gorka, also the author of the book Defeating Jihad, by the way. And Dr. Gorka, great to speak with you again. Hope to do so again soon.
My pleasure. God bless and have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. And by the way, just on Dr. Gorka, he actually did sit down for one of our Against the Current interviews back in the late fall last year. So if you want more expansive look at Dr. Gorka's views on a range of national security issues, you can go to upstream-ideas.com. He joined us on the turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot